Spiritism in its simplest expression. Part 2. Summary of the Spirit's teachings. Number 1. God is the supreme intelligence, the first cause of all things. God is eternal, one, immaterial, immutable, all-powerful, supremely just and good. God must be infinite in all his perfections, for if just one of these attributes were imperfect, God would not be God. Number 2. God created the matter of which the worlds are made. God also created intelligent beings, which we call spirits. Spirits are in charge of administering the physical worlds according to the immutable laws of creation. These spirits are perfectible by nature, and as they become perfected, they approach divinity. Number 3. The spirit per se is the intelligent principle. Its innermost nature is unknown to us. It is immaterial to us because it has no analogy with what we call matter. Number 4. Spirits are individual beings. They possess an ethereal, imponderable envelope called the perispirit, a sort of fluidic body in human form. Spirits inhabit space, which they can travel through faster than light. They make up the invisible world. Number 5. The origin and the way spirits are created are unknown to us. We know only that they are created simple and ignorant, that is, without knowledge or the understanding of good and evil. Nevertheless, they are created with an equal aptitude for all things, for God, in his justice, could not exempt some from the work imposed on others to reach perfection. At first, they live in a sort of infancy, without their own will and without complete awareness of their existence. Number 6. Spirits' free will develops as ideas develop, and God says to them, "You can all claim supreme happiness when you have acquired the knowledge you now lack, and when you have completed the task I am imposing on you. Therefore work for your advancement. That is your goal. You will reach it by obeying the law that I have engraved in your conscience." As a result of their free will, some take the shorter path, that of the good, whereas others take the longer, that of evil. Number 7. God did not create evil. God established laws, and these laws are always good, because God is supremely good. Those who faithfully obeyed them would be perfectly happy. However, since spirits have free will, they do not always obey them, and evil results for them because of their disobedience. Thus, one could say the good is everything that conforms to God's law, and evil is everything contrary to this same law. Number 8. In order to cooperate as agents of the divine power regarding the work of the physical worlds, spirits temporarily put on a physical body. By means of the labor that their corporeal existence demands, they perfect their intelligence, and by obeying God's law, they acquire the merit that will lead them to eternal happiness. Number 9. In the beginning, incarnation is not imposed on the spirit as punishment. It is needed for its development and completion of the works of God. All must endure it, taking the path of either good or evil. Only those who follow the course of the good advance more quickly. They take less time in reaching their goal and reach it under less painful conditions. Number 10. Incarnate spirits comprise humanity, which is not limited to the earth only, but inhabits all the worlds scattered throughout space. Number 11. The souls of human beings are incarnate spirits. In order to help them fulfill their duties, God has given them animals to be their helpers. Animals are subject to humans, and their intelligence and character are proportional to their needs. Number 12. The progress of the spirit is the result of its own labor. Since it cannot acquire in only one corporeal existence all the moral and intellectual qualities that it needs to reach its objective, it does so by means of a sequence of existences, during which it takes a few steps forward on the path of progress. Number 13. During each corporeal existence, the spirit must undertake a task that is proportional to its development. The harsher and more laborious the task, the more merit there is in completing it. Thus, each existence is a trial that brings it closer to its goal. The number of these existences is indeterminate. It depends on the will of the spirit itself to lessen it by working actively for its moral perfection, in the same way that it depends on the will of the worker who is called upon to finish a piece of work to shorten the number of days he or she needs to finish it. Number 14. When an existence is spent improperly, it is of no use to the spirit, who must reincarnate under conditions that are painful to a greater or lesser degree due to its negligence and badly used will. Thus in life it may be constrained to do on the following day what it did not do the day before, or to redo what it did badly. Number 15. The spirit life is the spirit's normal life. It is eternal. Corporeal life is temporary and fleeting. It is only an instant in eternity. Number 16. In between its corporeal existences, the spirit is errant. The errant state, or erraticity, is not of a predetermined length of time. In it, the spirit is either happy or unhappy, according to the good or bad use it made of its latest existence. It studies the causes that sped up or slowed down its evolution. It makes resolutions that it will seek to put into practice during its next incarnation, and choose for itself the trials that it believes will be most beneficial for its advancement. Nevertheless, it sometimes errs, since, as a human being, it fails to fulfill the resolutions it made as a spirit. Number 17. The guilty spirit is punished by mental suffering in the spirit world and by physical suffering during corporeal life. Its afflictions are the result of its wrongs, that is, of its transgressions of God's law. They are therefore at one and the same time an expiation of its past and a trial for its future. Thus it is that the once proud spirit may have to live a life of humiliation, the tyrant a life of servitude, the greedy a life of want. Number 18. There are worlds suitable to different degrees of spirit advancement, and where corporeal existence entails highly diversified conditions. The less advanced the spirit is, the more material and heavier the bodies with which it is enveloped. As it purifies itself, it passes on to worlds that are more highly evolved, both morally and physically. The earth is neither the best nor the worst. It is, however, one of the least evolved. Number 19. Guilty spirits incarnate on less advanced worlds, where they expiate their wrongs through the tribulations of material life. These worlds are for them true purgatories, and it depends on their own efforts to leave them by working for their moral advancement. The earth is one of these worlds. Number 20. Since God is supremely just and good, he does not condemn his people to eternal punishment because of their transitory wrongs. He continually offers them the means to progress and to repair the bad things they have done. God does forgive them, but such forgiveness requires repentance, reparation, and a return to the good. Hence, the duration of punishment is proportional to the spirit's persistence in wrongdoing. Consequently, punishment would be eternal for any spirit that continued eternally on the path of wrongdoing. But as soon as a spark of repentance enters the guilty heart, God extends the divine mercy to it. Eternal punishment must therefore be understood to be relative and not absolute. Number 21. When they incarnate, spirits bring with them what they acquired during their previous existences. This is why people instinctively display special aptitudes or good or bad inclinations that appear to be inborn. Natural bad inclinations are the remnants of a spirit's imperfections that it has not yet rid itself of completely. They are also indications of the wrongs it has committed, the true meaning of original sin. During each existence, it must wash away a few of its impurities. Number 22. The spirit's complete unawareness of its previous existences is a gift from God, who, out of divine goodness, wants to spare people memories that are often quite painful. In each new existence, people are what they make of themselves. It is for them a new departure point. They know their current faults, and they are aware that these are the consequences of previous ones. Thus they can deduce what wrongs they committed in the past, and this is sufficient for working to correct them. If they no longer have the imperfections they used to have, they no longer need to be concerned about them. They have their current ones to be concerned about. Number 23. If the soul had never lived before, it would be because it was created at the same time as its body. If that were the case, it would have no connection with the persons that preceded. One may thus ask how God, who is supremely just and good, could make it responsible for the wrongs of the father of humankind, staining it with an original sin that it did not commit, by affirming to the contrary that, upon being reborn, it brings with it the seed of the imperfections of its previous existences, and that it must bear in its current one the consequences of its past wrongs. Original sin is given a logical explanation that one can understand and accept, because the soul is responsible only for its own deeds. Number 24. The diversity of inborn moral and intellectual aptitudes is proof that the soul has lived before. If it had been created simultaneously with its current body, it would not be in accordance with God's goodness for some to be born more advanced than others. Why are there both non-civilized and civilized humans, good and bad persons, fools and wise persons? Everything is explained by realizing that some have lived more existences and have consequently acquired more attributes than others. Number 25. If the current existence were the only one, and if only it could decide the soul's future for all eternity, what would be the fate of children who died at a very young age to be? Having done nothing good or bad, they merit neither reward nor punishment. In keeping with Christ's words, all persons are recompensed according to their deeds. Thus, such children do not have any right to the perfect happiness of the angels, nor do they merit being deprived of it. Rather, in another existence, they will be able to complete whatever they did not in the one that was shortened, and there are no exceptions. Number 26. By the same token, what is the fate of the severely mentally impaired? Since they have no awareness of either good or evil, they have no responsibility for their actions. Would God have been just and good to have created impaired souls just to destine them to a miserable existence without compensation? On the other hand, accepting the fact that the souls of severely mentally impaired persons are spirits being punished in a body that is unsuitable for enabling them to think, and where they are like persons held prisoner by tight bonds, there is nothing that does not square with God's justice. Number 27. As the spirit gradually rids itself of its impurities, and is perfected through labor throughout its successive incarnations, it finally reaches the end of its corporeal existences. It then belongs to the order of the pure spirits or angels, and enjoys both a full life with God and untainted bliss forever. Number 28. Since humans are on the earth for purposes of expiation, God, as a good father, does not leave them entirely to themselves without guidance. First, there are protector spirits or guardian angels that watch over them and endeavor to lead them along the path of the good. Second, there are spirits who come to the earth on missions. These are high-order spirits who incarnate from time to time among them in order to illuminate their way by means of their labors, meant to enable humankind to advance. Even though God engraved the divine law on their consciences, he also thought he ought to formulate it explicitly. First, he sent them Moses, but the laws of Moses were made for the people living at the time, speaking to them only about the earthly life and of temporary rewards and punishments. Afterward, Christ came to complete the law of Moses by means of a more elevated teaching, the plurality of existences. the spirit life, and moral rewards and punishments. Moses taught them through fear, Christ through love and charity. Footnote to the phrase the plurality of existences. Refer to Matthew chapter 17 verse 10 and James chapter 3 verse 2. Number 29. Because Spiritism is better understood nowadays, it adds evidence to theory for the benefit of disbelievers. It proves the future by means of patent facts. It states in clear and unequivocal terms what Christ stated by means of parables. It explains truth that used to be unknown or erroneously interpreted. It reveals the existence of the invisible world, that of spirits, and initiates humans into the mysteries of the future life. It has come to combat materialism, which is rebellion against God's power. Lastly, it has come to establish among humans the reign of charity and solidarity proclaimed by Christ. Moses plowed, Christ sowed, Spiritism has come to reap. Number 30. Spiritism is not a new light, but a brighter one, for it has appeared at all points of the globe, through the voices of those who once lived. By making obvious what used to be obscure, it has put an end to erroneous interpretations and will unite humans in a common belief, for there is only one God whose laws are the same for all. Lastly, he has marked the era predicted by Christ and the prophets. Number 31. The ills that plague humans on earth are caused by pride, selfishness, and all the base passions. By coming in contact with one another's vices, humans make each other unhappy and punish one another. Let charity and humility replace selfishness and pride, and people will no longer try to harm one another. They will respect each other's rights and will make harmony and justice reign in their midst. Number 32. But how to destroy the selfishness and pride that seem inborn within the human heart? Selfishness and pride dwell within the human heart because humans are spirits who, from their beginning, have followed the path of wrongdoing and have been exiled on the earth as punishment for these very vices. Therein lies original sin, of which most have not yet rid themselves. Through Spiritism, God has made one final appeal for people to practice the law taught by Christ, the law of love and charity. Number 33. Since earth has reached the time set for it to become a dwelling place of peace and happiness, God does not want incarnate bad spirits to continue to bring trouble to the detriment of the good ones. Consequently, they must leave. They will go expiate their hardness of heart on less advanced worlds, where they will toil again for their spiritual growth in a series of even unhappier and more painful existences than what they experienced on earth. On these new worlds, they will form a new enlightened race, whose task will be to enable the less evolved beings that inhabit them to progress with the help of the knowledge they acquired. From there, they will not leave for a better world until they have merited it, and thus in succession until they have attained complete purification. If the earth used to be a purgatory for them, these worlds will be a sheer hell, but a hell from where hope is never banished. Number 34. As this proscribed generation rapidly disappears from the earth, a new generation arises, whose belief will be founded on Christian Spiritism. We are beholding this transition in motion, the prelude to the moral renewal of which Spiritism marks the advent.